talk? I live in New York. I am a cliched Californian existence, leaving our West Coast mother-son to experience the East Coast seasons and all their promises. The city undulates and flows, its amplitude forms the Manhattan skyline, subways stop and start again, the people walk fast and their thoughts run faster. I am here. I am happy that I am here. I am happy that the cold hugs my face so I don't feel alone as I walk the streets. I don't mind that the streets smell like piss because the people smell like nectar. They pass me on the sidewalk and their essence wafts by. I turn my head to follow them and ponder their existence, where they are going and where they have come from. New York City is a place for the people who have left, for people who come from the people who have left. That's how I know I belong here. Yes, Californian warmth is woven throughout my skin, and that feeling and that familiarity and the family will always be home, but really, I'm happy here. I am happy I have left the happy place from which I came. I am happy because my family left the happy place from which they came. And for them, it was the Philippines. For them, it was 7,000 miles away from everything they knew, across oceans, across continents, to here. My grandma, her husband, her 2 kids, her brothers and their wives and their children, her mother, her aunt, all under one San Francisco roof. Years passed and most of them returned to the Philippines, all except my grandparents, who chose to keep their family here. They raised their kids in the US, and eventually their teenage son would grow up, go to college, meet my mother, and they would raise their kids in the US too. My mother came from the Philippines as well. Her father worked in politics, and with the volatility that came with it, it soon became unsafe for the family. First, her mother left for the US in 1981. Year after year, the children followed suit until it was just my mother and her sister left in the Philippines with their father. It made sense. My mother was the youngest and the shadow of my grandfather. Everywhere he went, his littlest girl would clamber behind him, 5 tiny fingers wrapped around one of his. In 1987, though, she, not so little anymore, had to leave him too.
Like one friend told us that Tatay was so sad when we left, like Tita Let and I, because like we were the last ones to go, and we lived with him. So he was sad, but with Tata, he's not vocal like that. He's not expressive. Like he wouldn't tell you that he's hurt or or he's sad. Instead, that it's something that he has to do, so he did it. So that's how it is.
That's how it is. People stay, people are left behind. My great-grandparents and Tatay stayed in the Philippines, but their decisions passed happiness down from generation to generation, the pillars on which I stand. I visited the Philippines almost every summer, and I stayed with my great-grandparents, Lolo Anos and Lola Mommy. My dad was their first grandson, the first tapo, and it showed.
He was the apple of Lola and Lolo's. Early in the morning, they would come to our room and get him, take him away from us, take care of him. He was and eventually he started sleeping in their room already. He wasn't in effect, he wasn't our child. He was their child. We gave him up to Lolo and to Lola.
It then followed that they were incredibly close to me, their first and for a long time their only great-granddaughter. They would walk around the house and ask where the little girl was, and everyone knew they meant me. My Lolo Anos had 2 twin beds in his room, and that's where I would stay, side by side with him, with my parents and my brother to sleep 1 floor below, and even my Lola Mommy to sleep in the room next door. We would go on walks around the neighborhood, and one day he stopped. He pouted at me. He asked me, "Why don't you stay here? You could live with me." I didn't know what to say. I was a child. It was hardly my decision, even if I wanted to, so I laughed it off. I said I wish I could.
Do you think he was serious?
Maybe yes, because he would love to have you guys there. Because that's the thing. When you send your children abroad, they lose their ties to the Philippines.
Years later, he fell sick. It was time for our flight home, and I opened his bedroom door to say goodbye, and I found him sleeping. I lingered a moment. I let his memory burn into my skull, and then I turned to leave. That was the last time I saw him. With my grandpa on my mom's side, we had the reverse situation. He had 8 children, dozens of grandkids, some who even had kids of their own by the time I came around. I was one of the bunch, but I had the distinct honor of being my mother's daughter. The daughter of that little girl who used to follow his every step. Most of my cousins called him Lolo, or Grandpa in Tagalog, but I called him Tatay, father in Tagalog. He never corrected me, which was surprising because he was a stern man, a commanding presence, a powerful man by sheer means of his will, but in a second, his wintry face would melt and his spring charisma would hold its grip on public attention and my own. Every visit, he would sit across from me, crack a raw egg into a glass, stir it, and drink it. And the whole production never failed to capture my unwavering focus. I always wondered what it tasted like. He said it helps make you strong. But I was always too scared to ask or to try it. We celebrated his 90th birthday together, kids and grandkids. That was the last time I saw him. My Lola Mommy was a beacon, a woman of unshakable, joyful faith and incredible intelligence. She even got her master's in none other than New York City. The Lola Mommy I knew was always at the piano, at home, in the church, and any place she could. I took keyboard lessons in kindergarten, hoping to be just like her. Unlike her, I quit, quite promptly. But she always kept my lesson book stored in her piano bench. I traveled home, I traveled far, and I traveled back, and I always returned to that piano, playing the Westminster chimes until the grandfather clock in the living room played with me. She always loved music. She told me to take singing lessons, and I laughed, but she didn't. She knew I could do anything. I hear music, and I think of her.
Where are you? You continue?
We recorded this in the Philippines. That was the last time I saw her. And it was the last time I went to the Philippines.
Why are you crying?
I don't know.
I didn't know then. I know now. I am crying over decisions that echo in caves and tunnels I have lost. I am crying over parents who loved their children and let them go. I am crying because I would have stayed. I would have let the language of your thoughts grace my tongue. I would have watched the bougainvillea burst red and spread up the vines. I would have felt the pebbles of the front patio beneath my feet as I ran out the door every morning. I would have checked the notch in the front gate to see if a lizard laid their eggs there again. I would have played with a hose in the front yard as the jasmine bloomed. I would have learned to play the piano. I would have drunk the raw egg to grow strong like you. I would have been your little girl.